Can the body actually be allergic to alcohol? Or is something far more dangerous happening inside? Some people take just a few sips, and their face turns red, their heart starts racing, and a wave of discomfort hits almost immediately. This reaction gets labeled an alcohol allergy, but what is actually happening inside the body tells a very different and much more serious story. Because this is not just sensitivity to alcohol, it may be a sign the body is struggling to clear a toxic substance, and understanding why could change how someone thinks about their health. So can the body actually be allergic to alcohol? A true allergy is rare. It happens when the immune system treats something like a threat, triggering reactions like hives, swelling, or difficulty breathing. But most people who experience that red flush after drinking are not having an immune reaction at all. What they are experiencing is something metabolic. The problem is not the immune system. The problem is how the body processes alcohol itself. And to understand why that matters, it helps to follow exactly what happens inside from the moment someone takes their first sip. When alcohol enters the body, it does not stay as alcohol for long. The liver begins converting it almost immediately. In the first step of that process, alcohol is broken down into a chemical called acetaldehyde, and this is where things start to get complicated. Because acetaldehyde is not harmless. It is actually highly toxic, more harmful to the body than alcohol itself. Here is what makes acetaldehyde so dangerous at the cellular level. It is what scientists call reactive. That means it does not simply float through the bloodstream and get filtered out. It binds to proteins inside cells. It attaches to DNA, and it disrupts how cells repair themselves. Even brief exposure at higher levels starts a chain reaction of stress inside cells, and the body then has to work to undo it. This is why the liver works so hard to eliminate it quickly. So the body has a second step built in. A second enzyme quickly converts acetaldehyde into a much safer compound called acetate. Under normal conditions, this happens fast enough that acetaldehyde never builds up. But for some people, that second step does not work properly. And when that happens, something starts to build up that the body was never meant to handle. That is where the real story begins. The enzyme responsible for clearing acetaldehyde is called ALDH2. In some people, ALDH2 is less active than it should be. In others, it barely functions at all. So the process stops halfway. Alcohol gets converted into acetaldehyde. But acetaldehyde does not get cleared. It starts to build up in the bloodstream. The body is now dealing with a toxic substance it cannot remove efficiently. And when that builds up, the reaction starts to make sense. When acetaldehyde levels rise, blood vessels begin to widen. This increases blood flow near the surface of the skin, especially in the face. That widening is what creates the flushing effect. At the same time, heart rate climbs, body temperature rises, and a general feeling of discomfort sets in. These are not random side effects. They are the body sending a signal that something is wrong. But here is what most people never consider. The reaction does not stop at the skin. It reaches the brain. Acetaldehyde does not just affect blood vessels and skin. It affects the brain and the nervous system directly. This is why some people feel dizzy after just one drink. It is why nausea can hit faster than expected. And suddenly, even one drink feels stronger than it should. Not because of the alcohol, but because of what it turns into when the body cannot finish the job. So why does this happen to some people, but not others? Why can one person drink normally while another reacts instantly? The answer is written into the DNA. The ALDH2 enzyme is controlled by genetics. Some people inherit a version of the gene that produces a slower, less effective enzyme. This variation is especially common in populations across East Asia, but it can appear in anyone, regardless of background. Researchers estimate that roughly 8% of the global population carries some form of this ALDH2 variant. There are actually two levels to this. Some people inherit one copy of the slower gene, meaning the enzyme works just at reduced capacity. Others inherit two copies, meaning the enzyme is almost completely non-functional. The more impaired the enzyme, the faster acetaldehyde builds up, and the more intense the reaction becomes after even a small amount of alcohol. For people carrying this variant, the body is not broken. It is simply working with a different version of one critical enzyme. But when that enzyme does not perform, the body loses its ability to finish what it started. And the consequences of that are far bigger than most people realize. This is why calling the reaction an allergy can be so misleading. The body is not rejecting alcohol the way it rejects pollen or peanuts. It is failing to finish processing a toxic intermediate. The red face, the racing heartbeat, the discomfort. None of those are mild inconveniences. They are warning signs. Signs that acetaldehyde is circulating at levels the body was not designed to handle. And when that warning gets dismissed as just a sensitivity, something important gets missed entirely. So what does this actually mean beyond a red face and a fast heartbeat? Acetaldehyde is not just uncomfortable. It is classified by researchers as a known carcinogen. That means it has the ability to damage DNA and disrupt normal cell function. When it builds up repeatedly, even in small amounts over time, it exposes the tissues of the mouth, throat, esophagus, and digestive system to higher concentrations of this toxic compound. Research has linked ALDH2 deficiency to elevated cancer risk, particularly in people who continue drinking despite the flushing reaction. But here's the part most people never think about. There is also a secondary effect that rarely gets discussed. Because the liver is spending extra effort trying to manage acetaldehyde that is not clearing properly, it is under more metabolic stress with every drink. Over years, this added strain can affect how the liver works, not just with alcohol, but with other detox processes the body depends on every day. And because acetaldehyde also interferes with how the body absorbs certain B vitamins, particularly folate, chronic exposure can quietly affect cellular repair in ways that compound over time. The body was sending a message. And there is also growing research into how acetaldehyde accumulation affects cognitive function and cardiovascular health over time, adding another layer to why the cleanup process matters far beyond any single drink. For anyone who flushes and has always assumed it was harmless, this changes the picture completely. So can the body be allergic to alcohol? In most cases, no. But something more important may be happening instead. The body may be stopping halfway through a critical detox process, leaving a toxic compound circulating rather than clearing it. The flush, the heat, the racing pulse, those are not just reactions. They are the body's way of saying that something dangerous did not get cleaned up. And once that is understood, it's hard to ignore.